I want to show a video to share my screen here and show exactly what Youth for Christ does. Let's see. I'm having a little technical difficulty here. Can anybody see that?
Not yet.
Can you see it now or no?
Nope. No, I see you.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Still in effect.
Uh-oh. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. What happened here?
You might have to sing it.
Richard will cover that dead space time. Go for it, Rich.
Yeah, you might have to sing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure exactly what happened to it. I had it. It was working earlier, but let's see. All right, I'm trying to just get back to me. Can anybody see me still?
Oh,
We can see you, Mike.
Okay, so here we are. We'll have to show the video a little bit later then. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but we have Miss Peggy Powell here. She's been with Youth for Christ for about 7-8 years. Is that right, Miss Peggy?
Yep.
And tell me a little bit about exactly, tell you what first, tell me exactly what you do with Youth for Christ and a little bit about that.
So I'm the director of the juvenile justice part of Youth for Christ. 2012, I retired from church ministry. I'd been in church ministry for 38 years. And I retired in March, and by fall, I just thought, Lord, this isn't all there can be in my life. And I heard that Youth for Christ was wanting to start ministry in detention homes for juveniles. And I had an interest in this. The church I'd been involved with had a huge prison ministry. Whenever they had a need for a woman, they sent me in. And so I wasn't afraid of walking into jails. So I had a discussion with one of the men on staff and began interviewing. And in November of 2012, they brought me on, and really, they didn't have a ministry. I was to field and start the ministry. So I prayed. Of course, Cuyahoga Hills was our most local in the Cleveland area. So I started there in the Juvenile Justice Center down on Quincy in Cleveland. And so county and state, I tried to get into both, and it's not an easy process. They already have a lot of programs in progress. So I heard that there was a church, a local church, that had a service on Wednesday nights, and that was Hudson Christ Community Chapel. And someone gave me the name of Mr. Richard White down in one of the other squares. And I called him and I just asked if I could come out and observe. And so I did that, and our hearts just really clicked. We just had a common heart. And we partnered with Richard and Christ Community Chapel on that Wednesday night service. And we just put our resources together. We went from just showing videos. We added live speakers. I had a great background of people who come out of prison with testimonies of being fruitful as believers on the outside. And so with his resources and my resources, we developed that Wednesday night even further. It was an excellent program. We developed it even further. And as you become known and trusted in an institution, you're able to bring in different programmings. So that's what we did. We wanted to be up on the units, and they said, no, we usually don't let people up on the units. And I just kept saying I really would like to get on a unit, because I knew we only saw a small portion of those kids in chapel on Wednesday night. We saw maybe 30 kids. And at that time, there was probably 140 kids in the facility. So I knew we were seeing a sliver. So I said, if I bring a non-faith-based character class on, could I do it up on one of the units, maybe intake, all the kids coming in. So finally, they allowed me to do that. And then after we had been doing it for some time, the head of that unit was transferred to another unit, and she so liked the Ambassadors of Compassion, which is basically non-faith based, but basically all scriptural. So she so liked the program. She said, "Would you bring it on my unit?" And I said, "Well, absolutely, I'll bring it on your unit." So, well, then we had 2 units, and someone was visiting that unit one day from another unit, and they liked the program. And they said, "Well, hey, will you bring that to my unit?" So then I had 3 units, and we just kept praying that God would give us just favor in that facility. And so I was walking down the hall, and the deputy at that time stopped me and said, "Miss Peggy, how many units are you on?" And I said, 3. He said, "I gave you 1." And I said, "I know, but they just keep asking me to come." And that was probably back in 2013, towards the end of 2013. And now we're allowed on every unit. And God has given us a chapel service on the intake unit at one facility. He's given us a chapel service at Indian River, which is down in Massillon. When a kid is convicted of a crime, they go to county. They're tried in their own county. But then if they decide that this is a child that needs further incarceration, they send them to state. So when they come to state, they have to go to Indian River for 4 weeks where they're evaluated, and then they're assigned the institution that they'll be doing their time in. There's 3 state institutions. So that chapel service at Indian River gives us the opportunity to see every kid that goes into long-term lockup for 4 weeks and present the gospel. So we're very excited about that inroad, and that just happened this year. That has just such an answered prayer. And we were involved there for, I'm going to say, 6 weeks. And then my COVID hit, and everything came to a screeching halt.
Yeah.
And COVID hit, all the prisons and all the correctional facilities, juvenile, have just been closed. So all the work that we had rolling has come to a screeching halt. But fortunately, we brought this handsome young man on in September to do reentry work, and his name is Mike Howard. And
I'd like to meet him.
Yeah, he began contacting people on the outside, kids that had gotten out and kids that were just getting out had gotten to know him. Now, Mike came on in November. Stop me if I'm rolling too much, Mike. But he came on in November, and he began to get to know the kids. And he began to do reentry work on the inside. He brought Mr. Tim White on to teach 7 steps of success. And I know you're going to talk about all this.
Yeah.
I had the sheer joy, pleasure of meeting Tyrone Hinton, who's in the other block from New Community Church. And he brings a team of men in that work with our kids. And we are just so blessed to have these men of God help us reach out to these kids in the facilities, because in getting to know the kids and winning their trust, kids that have gotten out under this COVID, even though they don't know what happened to us, or they've kept our number and they've called us.
I'm going to show a quick video just so our audience, I think I got it back working now. So let me know if you can see it. But I want to show this video because it kind of gives an image, and they do a great job. YFC does a great job in showing what the prisons look inside and exactly what Peggy and I do, and Mr. Tim White and Richard White does. So let me share this video with you all. Oh, here we go. So let me know if you can see it. Can you guys see it?
So far, so good.
Yes.
Okay, good. Here we go.
The most dangerous time for a resident in the facility is when they first enter. Some kids come in as suicidal. Some kids come in as, I don't know what's going to happen to me, so I need to make the first move.
I'm back again. The metal door is slamming behind me. I hate this place. I wish my life would be different. They're always trying to tell me what to do. Going down that tunnel of halls. Back to the film I only know. Back to the grind. to the life I only know.
So when I think about a facility without ministry, it breaks my heart to think about a young person who's sitting in a cell right now, to think about a young person who can't connect to a positive adult, who can encourage, who can support, who can come alongside them and give them a love that maybe they haven't ever had. It breaks my heart to think about.
And I hate to see them in this miserable place. I mean, it's not filthy, it's not dirty, but it's still a dirty, filthy place in your mind because you're incarcerated.
Being around different peers that they may not know, or peers that they may think that want to hurt them or harm them just because of their lifestyle on the outside.
They're in trouble and they're looking for people to give them guidance. And if we can create a positive message, the impact is terrific.
It's really evident that there's a huge need for this ministry. When you walk onto a unit or a day room and you see a 10-year-old behind the glass and your heart just breaks for them.
It was not comfortable at all. You know what I'm saying? You wake up cold, on a hard concrete slab. Phone calls, you get one every other day or once a week, depending on your behavior or what level you was on. Hungry, you know what I'm saying? And you get a small portion of food. But they did have some good days, like on Fridays when JJM came, it was a pretty chill day. We had minor groups, watch a music video, talk a little bit, we got to chill,
In Youth for Christ, in our juvenile justice ministry, programs are a way for us to get inside juvenile facilities, but programs aren't our focal point. Our focal point is a one-on-one, authentic, Christ-sharing relationship with a young person that begins in the facility and follows them back in the community.
It's part of my role as a juvenile justice director is to really support our volunteer staff, to give them the tools, the curriculum, the training that they need to engage these students in a one-on-one relationship.
We come in, we minister to the kids, we pray with the kids.
Eventually they start talking and open up to people, and they really like the feeling that people are really asking them questions and wanting them to be here for them and teaching them.
Talking to JJM, they told me that you can use him for anything. Like, it's at a good and bad time, so even though I ain't do nothing too serious right now, I still pray, that he keep my life on track and better my future. And don't let my past affect my future in a negative way too much based on the stuff that I have did.
They reach out to Youth for Christ on the outside. They give them these little get out of jail free cards to just come meet with us, and we'll buy you lunch and we'll talk about, your walk with Christ, or we'll just talk about your situations and how we can get through those things. I think it's made an awesome impact on most of the residents' lives.
And we know the ministry is making a difference. In fact, we have staff people across the U.S. that were former students inside their own facility. We have staff that were former residents of the detention center that they now work in. Our staff need to be great mobilizers. This ministry can't happen without volunteers. 80,000 teenagers will hear that door slam and won't be connected to a positive adult who will listen, who will care, who will pray, who will love them right where they're at. 80,000 teenagers tonight in a local detention center.
Wow. That's something to really watch and see. And I think that video, and correct me if I'm wrong, Miss Peggy, let me just say you're a great boss. But let me just say that what do you need inside of these jails? Can you tell the viewers who are...
I want to welcome you to this seminar on effective juvenile justice ministries. What is that? You may have been going in doing Bible studies or programs with youth who are locked up for a long time. We started 30 years ago, but kids are always changing.
There we go. Sorry about that. No technical difficulty. So go ahead, Peggy. Just tell us what do we need now to really? You're talking about 80,000 kids that are locked up in a detention center a year. That's what he said.
Yes.
In the video. So what could you use?
We need volunteers. We could use as many volunteers as there are kids locked up, and there's kids locked up all over our state. There's kids locked up in county that just need a one-on-one mentor. And let's face it, I'm a 70-year-old woman, you know, and yet, and probably never did drugs, never was a drinker, never said anything worse than ditch water. You know, I'm not the usual person to you know, work with a kid that's in trouble. And yet all you have to do is show them love, and there is a connection, you know, and to be able to connect with a kid's heart and tell them about Jesus. So many people are confused, like, oh, I'm just, I don't have the kind of life, or I'm not relatable. No, love is relatable. I drove into the facility just to connect with one of the workers there. And up on the hill, the kids were outside for rec. And I got choked up with tears because I can't get to them. You know what I mean? Right now, we can't get in. And I saw them, even with the doors on that video opening and closing. To some people, that's a scary thing. To me, I felt like, you know, I'm longing for home there, because the kids are just so needy that for someone to step into their lives and just offer them friendship. Now, I don't play basketball, but I did learn how to play jacks, a card game jacks that they like to play in there. And once in a while, I'll pick up that ping pong, you know. But any way you can connect with them, get them laughing, and then they start to open their hearts. So number one, volunteer.
Yeah, so, you know, it's interesting. You said- yeah.
Number two, we started a new program. It's called, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, Peg.
That's okay. We started another program called Suited for Hope. And Suited for Hope is something we want to bring to churches. So if you would be a liaison for your own church, whoever you are out there listening. But we want to put a suitcase in a church lobby with just different tags on it. And the tags would be items of clothing at different price points. So if somebody could only afford to buy a tube of toothpaste, they could pick that tab up and return it to the suitcase. And when a youth gets out, we'd like them to have a couple shirts, a pair of pants, you know, underwear, toothbrush, deodorant, stuff they get out. I've seen kids come in like at 14 and leave at 19 or 20, and they've gone from a skinny slip of a boy to a grown man, you know, and going home to no clothes at all and no resources, and not necessarily going home to families that can provide for them. So we would like to put a suitcase in and have the right sizes for the kid getting out in a few weeks, and you can fill that suitcase at your church. This keeps from having a clothes drive, and churches are like, oh man, I don't know where to put all these used clothes. You know, you could buy a white shirt, business shirt at Walmart for $20 in the kid's right size, and just dump it in the suitcase, and it would take a kid so far. So Suited for Hope is one of our programs that, as they let us know what kids are coming out, then we are able to help facilitate just reentry and having just the basic needs met, a $25 Walmart card, you know, so they can fill in the blanks. You know, we need jobs, Mike. You know, we need employers that will take a risk on jobs for these kids, because you know what, if you go back and there's no work for you, and all of a sudden you get hungry and the right person comes along, it's real easy to take a wrong turn again. And you know, I got notice that in June, 2 of the kids I worked with were killed on the street. And it's like when you hear that these kids, you know, reoffend and go to jail, your heart breaks. But when you realize that their lives are over at 17 and 18 years old, you almost can't breathe, you know, because you've worked with these kids, you've loved these kids, you've got your fingerprints all over these kids. And to think, you know, to think that quickly their lives are gone. So mentors that are going to follow them on the streets are just essential. Jobs are so needed. You know, you can go from the most inexpensive thing, the tiniest slot of time, to like a Mr. White in the corner who he teaches 7 steps to success and can bring seminars in. I mean, whatever, you know what I mean? If you can say, there is no way I'm going into a prison, but maybe you'd want to be a prayer chairman and just get people on a prayer call and pray over this ministry every week. We could put you to work that way. If you have secretarial skills and just want to do data input, we can use whatever your gift is to help these kids.
And here we got, here's the thing too, Pigs. I'm glad you brought that up because we have Mr. Tyrone Hinton, who has been volunteering with Youth for Christ for about, I'd say 4 years. Is that right, Tyrone?
Yeah, since 2017.
2017, yes, it's 2017. So let me tell you, how did you get hooked on volunteering, and what's some of the joy that you've kind of got out of doing that?
Well, for the first part to even get involved with that, our church was having we titled it "Make Cleveland Better," where we wanted to get outside the church walls and connect with people that are already involved into things that they're doing. And so I came across the Youth for Christ. So I actually ran into a person who I used to work with and knew that she had left Sharon Williams, who I formerly worked with. I'm retired now, Jennifer. When I ran into Jennifer, then she gave me a little insight, and then I started to look a little bit further into it. And so I was excited to be, what's on my mind is to try to impact someone else's life. And someone impacted my life besides my parents. I had other people to look up to. So I wanted to be able to try to be able to impact someone else's life. So that got me connected with Youth for Christ, and that led me to Peggy. And when I got with Peggy, went to the Cowger Hills, and then got an overview of what's going on there. And so I was excited to be able to have an opportunity to come inside to see if I can touch one of these young men's lives.
So let me ask you real quick, Tyrone. So when you went into the facility, what was your first impression when you went in there, and what did you go in there with? Did you have any notes that you wanted to talk about? Was it a special message that you wanted to talk about? What did you do? What were you thinking of? How are you going to reach these youth while you're in there?
Yeah, I'm believing that the biggest thing that they needed is Christ. Mm-hmm. And so my first objective was to go in to give the gospel message, knowing that they're going to need more than that, but everything is going to be built off of Christ. And so if they were going to get a job, they're going to need a good foundation, good character, and even to sustain the job. And so everything would start with Christ. So that was the first plan. So I brought guys with me. I was excited about it, and told my men's group about it. And guys came in and spoke about their own testimony, and ultimately given a chance to give the gospel. So I was excited about that.
So tell me, real quick, because I want to just ask you, when the name, you first read off the title of your name that's going to come in, it was kind of like it threw people off. Madmen.
Yeah.
What does Madmen stand for?
Mad Men stands for Make a Difference Men. And so my group at our church is a life group, but we got an additional thing that we do is a service group. So we do small home and repair projects. So I'm a painter myself. We got different people with different skills in the group, whether it's plumbing or electrical, handyman. And so now we can bring something even beyond the gospel to the table to hopefully be able to engage someone and demonstrate to them, to the young men, that they can pick up a skill if they want to be useful in using their hands. So it stands for Make a Difference Men. So we're not mad.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And
Yeah.
I think because Richard and I, we were talking about doing something where we can get, because Peggy mentioned about jobs. Richard, what could we do to reach out to different jobs for people to hire these youth when they come out, like Mr. Tyrone? If we can find more volunteers that have their own businesses and say they want to learn how to do painters, maybe when they get out, if they live nearby a church, could they do something like that, you think, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's getting these young men prepared to re-enter society. That's the basis of what we really need to do. And that work starts on the inside with programs that JJM are bringing in, and to your point, Mike Howard, your piece of reentry. So getting it prepared so that they can be able to responsibly be able to handle what comes with holding down a job, okay, or even learning a trade. I'm listening to Tyrone Hinton talk about his group and how some of them have some of the carpentry skills. Well, how can we prepare them to be able to take on the training and the skills and learn the skills that it takes to either be employed as a carpenter, electrician, what have you, or even to start a business? So, and I think that starts by developing relationships on the inside, because, we have to prepare them so when they get out and they're presented with the opportunity. To Peggy's point, yeah, we do need companies that will hire them, but it's not going to work if they're not prepared to take on the responsibility.
I think that's exactly, because that ties in with what Deacon Tyrone is trying to do, right? Tyrone, you go in there, you're trying to set a foundation with these kids. So when you go in there, you see a kid, you come in with a topic. What are you talking to these kids about?
We had several topics. One, we were talking about a man and the responsibility of a man. And so I remember one of our first talks when we went in, and we were talking about jobs before we gave the gospel. So if you're talking about a job, to be able to hold one, it's going to be several things you're going to be needing. You're going to need good character. You're going to need discipline. You're going to have to be able to even take a few things. When you don't own your own business, sometimes people don't like the way the boss might speak to them. And so unless you can understand that you're going to have to listen to what your boss might say, whether you like it or not, if you can't take it, you won't be able to stay. And
That's
so
right.
you're going to have a number of things that you're going to need to know and be able to take to be able to stay in it. I'm thinking about I retired from Sherwin-Williams after 40 years. After 40 years being at the company, was everything pleasant? I had a boss that talked a certain way, and the way that he talked wouldn't be acceptable to a lot of people. I'm talking about talking to you or other people that I worked with. But to be able to take it, see, I look back after the 40 years, and what did I accomplish after 40 years? I smiled through a number of the things that my boss would say that probably normally wouldn't be received by a number of people. So I looked at those number of people and what happened to them. They didn't last long. And so
Tyrone, I probably wouldn't last long.
Yeah.
But that's a good point, Tyrone. Let me just get Tim involved here for a second, because Tim, you and I worked on a couple different projects, and the book that Peggy wrote that mentions you about 7 signs of success, and people have to see the cover of this book. I mean, you look at the back of the book, and Tim wrote, he's an author of 91 other books, which is so glad that he's on our team and helping us out. But Tim, before we get to talk to Justin, because Justin just joined us.
Hi, Justin.
I want to ask you a question though. When you wrote that book, tell me a little bit about the signs of the 7 signs of success, because it's interesting when you look at the back of the book, you see all these signs. Before I get to Justin, answer that for me real quick.
Okay, one of the reasons hello everybody. The reason I wrote the book was just that there are signs in our lives that we all see every day. And the purpose of the signs is to show us something, to teach us something. So the Lord laid on my heart to write a book called The 7 Signs of Success. And each one of the signs represents something that we need to do. The stop sign, first one in the book is saying stop. The stop sign is there for us. We know we're not going to be there permanently, but we need to stop and evaluate where we are, what we're doing, where we're going, how we're going to get there. So that's one of the major signs that is within the book. And then you have to have, there's a caution sign because we need to be cautious. There's a yield sign. There's a dead end sign. There's a U-turn sign. These are signs that we all see every day of our life. And the point of those signs is a reminder. And within the book, the confounds of the book, I'm saying to everybody, when you see this sign, it's always going to remind you that you have a purpose in life and you can overcome whatever the adversity is by first stopping, by being cautious, by yielding, knowing sometimes you're going to hit a dead end, you're going to hit some bumps. But if you yield, you can always make a U-turn. And U-turn don't mean going back to the beginning, simply means going back to where I made the mistake. And a lot of our young people who are incarcerated made mistakes. And one of the things we've done with the book, taking it into the facilities, is to help young people see their way. And I want to jump on something Miss Peggy said, and it's twofold. I like one of the things you said, you leave your DNA. We need to make sure that we leave our DNA with these young people in these places. In order to do that, you have to connect with them. How do we connect with these young people? And when we connect, are we filling a void? And we need to learn how to fill those voids because they're hungry. And Brother Deacon, you were saying it too. You know, we look at Youth for Christ. Youth for Christ don't mean that we're young people. You just have to have a young heart. And you have to have that desire and that passion for young people. And these young people are saying to us, when I know for a fact, and Mike, I know you can say it, and Richard, Miss Peggy, all of us, when we go in there, they're hungry for leadership. They're hungering for somebody to show them the way. You know, it's one thing to talk about Christ, but they're saying, okay, I don't see Christ, I see you. Right. Can I see Christ in you? And are you representing him? And that's what we need to do. And that's what the writing is all about too. So I'm encouraged by what I hear, what we're seeing, and what we are doing. So I can't wait to hear Mr. Justin, because he was in there too. I want to hear what he has to share with us this afternoon too. So he looked like he's ready. Yeah. So Justin, we need to bring him in, Mike.
Yeah, Justin. So, hey, I am so glad that you are on with us. And first of all, let me just say this to you, Justin, real quick, because I brag about you all the time. So, no, all kidding aside, man, I talk about you. You are one of the kids that I look to as a success story. I want to be able to bottle up whatever suggestions that work for you and be able to use that for other kids. That's why we invited you on the show. So you're doing very well. So let's tell me a little bit about when you were incarcerated. What did Youth for Christ bring to you? What did it help?
Youth for Christ brought like Wednesday night church and other events for us to go to and do. I was gonna say, first of all, it helped time go by a bit faster, and then second of all, it helped teach us. Like, I know I was in Mad Men for a little bit there before I left. Yeah. And it went over different teachings about, like, I know he said character, like, and how he went on his spew about bosses. Like, it's stuff that I see today, and it helps prepare you for some of the life that you do see today, and it helps you prepare for stuff I know I haven't been through, but I know I will eventually go through, and just helps prepare you for that. I was gonna say those are probably the two biggest things, or I guess a third thing would be it gives you someone to talk to that's not in the same situation as you. It's just someone new to talk to and get to know and kind of help you through things, guide you per se. So. Yeah,
you know, Justin, let me just brag on you a little bit, because you got out and I remember you stayed with your grandparents. Then you got a job, and then you moved out. I remember when you moved out to this nice ranch home, and then you started college. And not only that, let me just brag on them some more, if you guys just bear with me. So Justin, for the last 8 weeks, we've been having Zoom Bible studies. Now, I remember just a few weeks ago, 4th of July came, and I was actually giving Justin a way out. I said, Justin, hey, I know it's a 4th of July weekend. We can reschedule if you like. And Justin said, no, we can just adjust the time. I had to work a double shift. And Justin, so tell me, you know, you're 19 years old, right?
Yeah.
So tell me, what is the motivating factor here? What's keeping you on track?
I want to better myself, not for tomorrow or the next month. I want to like better myself and put myself in a better situation than I was the day before. But in a year or two, I want to be able to, I mean, right now I'm working at a factory, so it's not a bad job, but it's not the type of job I want to do for the rest of my life. So I want to get my college degree so I can go, and I like working with computers. So I want to in say a year or two be working on computers instead of in the factory working. I just want to keep bettering myself in my situation.
How's your Bible study? You're studying the book, Knowing God. How is that helping you with your relationship with God?
It's going into depth into different things like you don't normally think about. I know 3 weeks ago, one chapter that really stuck out with me was when J.I. Packer talked about idols and how it stated all idols are all images of other gods, and how he talked about even pictures and other images of God himself could be considered idols because we can't picture all his glory and everything like that.
So that's been helping you then. So I mean, it's good. So you're doing that. So let me ask you a question. So 4 years from now, when you graduate from college, where do you want to be at?
I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do know I want to be working a job under my degree. Where at, not for sure, but I do know I'd like to be in my own house or trying to buy a house instead of renting, and try to try to just be more forward than I am right now, like trying to buy a house instead of renting, and maybe have a nicer car, but it just depends on how cards fall.
Let me ask you one more question. I'll let some of the other viewers here, guests, be able to ask you some questions too. So as they prepare to get their thoughts together, let me ask you this question. So if you had a chance to see some of the youth that you were in there with, and you had a chance to speak to them and hold a conversation with them, what would you tell them to do? How would you tell them? What advice would you give them right now to be able to make the necessary steps like you have made to get a job, move out, have your Bible studies? What advice would you give them to do?
I would give them advice of keep trying. Like, I know when I first applied for a job, I didn't get the first few jobs I applied for. I actually had trouble finding a job at first, and I just kept applying, and I set a schedule. Like, I at least want to apply to 2 places a day, or 1 or 2 places a day. And eventually I did get a call back and started working. So keep trying and make sure that.
Justin, I want to ask you something too. As a writer, I tend to, when I write, I look back, but I think forward. So I want you to, if you can answer this question, when you look back, what do you see looking back? And then what do you see as you look forward with your life?
When I look back, I see a lot of things that have changed, like from going to DYS and with Youth for Christ. I see a lot of differences in me than that are differences that are better for me. Like, I mean, normally I'm a real shy person. I normally freeze up a bit more than what I am talking in front of new faces, but I've kind of grown a little bit and kind of gotten out of my shell, but in a better way. So
very good.
Okay.
Richard,
that's a big shot.
Hey, Justin, refresh my memory. Did you come to faith on intake? Did you pray when you were in the intake unit when did you actually come to faith?
I'm not for sure. I think it was intake unit or on intake. I'm not for sure. If it wasn't on intake, it would have been shortly after.
Yeah, okay, great. No, I just remember after you prayed, you were like in every service. You were one of the most faithful kids. And it is so, when you say you've grown, you don't know how much you've grown. It's pretty exciting just to hear you articulating or even saying, I remember what Deacon Tyrone taught about. You know what I mean? That's so excellent to know that his words have stuck in your heart, and it's great to see that, you don't have to know what everything in life is going to be for you, but it's great that you have a plan and you're walking towards it. I'm proud of you, man. I'm just so proud of you. Yeah.
Thanks.
Richard, did you have a question for Justin, Richard? I know we talked about it earlier.
Yeah, no, what is the biggest thing you've learned since you've been on this journey?
I want to say the biggest thing I've learned over the journey is to kind of to get out of your comfort zone, to try different things. And like I said before, I was really shy and I really didn't talk to people in there. But when I started going to the church services, I started socializing more with different people I didn't know, and I started to get out of my comfort zone, to start to talk to other people. I want to say, like, that's one of the biggest things that stuck with me and I've really gone with.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, very good. Just Tyrone, did you have a question you want to ask him?
Not a quick question in particular, but he just has me, really excited about what can happen. He's an example of what could happen if a person got to make up your mind which way you want to go. So while they were in there, you already know you went in the wrong direction. So Justin demonstrated he don't want to go that way. And what it made me think of is sending a message out to the rest of the guys in the group to follow up what you have been doing with Justin, as far as encouraging him, hanging with him, and let the other guys know in the group that whatever little bit we did, I'm trying to demonstrate that it can make a difference in someone else's life. And so I'm hoping that some more guys in the group will make a definite commitment to want to be a part of these young men's lives in one way or another. So I'm excited about you, Justin.
And see, that speaks to what Peggy was saying earlier in her dissertation a little bit. We need more volunteers. We need more people to get involved rather than just seeing what needs to be done. It's one thing to see what needs to be done, but it's another doing it. And we need people to get invested and involved and become mad, as your term is. Mad for Christ, knowing that we need to go in and make a difference. we can't do it by sitting on the outside talking about it. We can do that all day. Peggy said, they said 80,000 in the video. 80,000 young people were incarcerated. 80,000. That's a large number, and each one needs somebody to mentor them.
Yeah.
And we're doing it, but we're not even enough. As excited as we are about this, and there's a 1,000 Justins out there waiting, or 80,000 Justins waiting for somebody to come along and encourage them. And I'm going to use, Peggy, it's going to come up in one of my writings down the road, that DNA. We need to touch them with our DNA. When we leave, did we leave our fingerprints all in their lives? That's an amazing thing. When you think about that, that's an awesome thought. Did I leave my DNA with that young person?
And, you know, I just want to throw this in, you know, in the state institutions, we're primarily working with boys, you know, but Youth for Christ also works with gals. We're just starting. We're able to hire 2 social workers to work with the human trafficking. So we will be building in county, meeting the gals, because many of the girls in county that are incarcerated are often trafficked. So we have 2 social workers, and we're building teams around these social workers of women who want to help traffic gals. And there's a lot of resources there that we need. You know, every ministry needs money. I mean, it goes without it. But there's so many other things to give. And these gals need people that will help follow up on them. They need toiletries. They need all sorts of resources for these girls, gift cards, just simply to take them to lunch so that they can build relationships and talk to them. Gals that want to help minister to these gals that have gotten out. So if you're a woman and want to work with some incarcerated kids or some trafficked kids, there's an avenue through IFC where we can plug women into full force. Michael?
Yeah, do you have a number you can give them? Do you want to give an office number, a email address, so those who are listening, the viewers, can actually say, yes, how do I become a mentor? How do I become a volunteer? Or if not, maybe I can give my resources. Maybe
Sure.
I can donate money.
So Greater Cleveland Youth for Christ phone number is 216-252-9881. 216-252-9881. You can connect with them there. You can look us up, Greater Cleveland Youth for Christ, and I'm sure it'll connect you right to a website. If you want to contact me, you can just contact me at PPOW at Greater Cleveland Youth for Christ. So feel free to call the office. We would love to plug you in. We would just love to plug you in. But we are Greater Cleveland Youth for Christ.
Appreciate that, Peggy. And one more question just for Tyrone while I got you here. You know, you've been doing this for a while. What's the biggest joy since you've been volunteering? What can you just tell our viewers what the experience is like?
The biggest joy is coming with the guys, and I'm thinking that some of the guys had some apprehension, maybe some fear about how am I going to impact someone else's life. But to get there, to find out, remember the first day that we was coming, and Peggy said that these guys are waiting on you. Oh, that just made me believe that the door is open. So you don't have to worry about when you go in. They're waiting on you. And so it's exciting to come, whether 1, 2, or 10 guys come down. If one guy come down, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And so that one person wants to hear from us. So that makes me excited.
You know, it's funny you said that, because Justin, you and I had our Bible study on Saturday, and you kind of alluded to that. You said that it was nice being able to look forward to talk a little bit about it with me, Justin, about Epiphany, what they did for Epiphany. I mean, that's something you talk about that for a little bit.
For Epiphany, we did a bunch of games and a bunch of like studying. They did plays over different stories of the Bible. The one that I remember the most, or they did a joke in it, that's why I remember it the most. But the story of the father and the two brothers, the one brother who asked for his inheritance and then left and spent it partying, and then came back and they threw the feast, and the younger brother asked about why he got this feast and everything. Well, your brother was lost and he found his way. It's just, I remember stuff like that, and they had food and different things for us to look forward to, and it was a fun weekend. And they even do reunions once a month. I think it's the first Saturday, if I remember right, but they do different songs and games and just fun stuff like that.
Good deal, good deal. Well, Justin, I appreciate you being on. I'm just going to ask you a few questions here real quick. At the top of your head, I like to, whenever I interview someone, I like to just ask them certain questions. So you ready? Here's my top 11 questions. Ready? Or 10 questions.
Top 10 questions.
What's your favorite word? Real quick. What's your favorite word? You have a favorite word?
Blue, I don't know.
What's your least favorite word?
Cry, I guess.
Yeah, that's mine too.
What turns you on? What makes you motivated?
What makes me motivated? The future.
The future, very good. What about what turns you off?
The past.
Right.
Oh, very good. What sound or noise do you love?
Sizzling.
That sounds like bacon.
Yeah.
Or anything frying.
Yeah, something not.
Me too.
What sound or noise do you hate?
The fingernail on the chalkboard or the styrofoam rolling together.
There you go. Okay, what profession other than what you're doing now would you like to undertake? What would you like to do?
I don't like to do computers, but that's what I'm heading for.
Okay.
So I guess another thing would be like my dad does part-time like arcade games. I enjoy working with those. So.
Okay. What profession would you absolutely not want to attempt?
I would not want to be a garbage collector.
I was a garbage collector. We think alike, Justin.
That's scary.
That's scary.
That's good. You can teach him a lot then, Justin. You can teach him a lot.
Yeah.
Here's another question for you. What do you want God to say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Are the gates pearly? No.
I'm not for sure on that one.
Let me ask you got the key?
Yeah, you go. Okay, here's the last question for you. Now you finish the sentence. Before I leave this earth, I will not be satisfied until
I make others laugh.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, Justin, I certainly appreciate you being on the show with us, man. We're going to always keep up to date with you. But I just really wanted to have this show because of the fact that Justin and I invited Miss Peggy and Tyrone, and I have wonderful co-hosts, Richard White, who created the Restoration Chapel at the Cuyahoga Hills. You got the author Tim White, and just when I think about this, and I want you to think about this, when we do things collectively, can't we do more? When we begin to all of us roll our sleeves up, and we all have different talents and different gifts, and we're all working for the common denominator, we can do more. We can do a lot. And I think that, and I remember, Justin, when we first met you, I worked with Deacon Tyrone. I always call him Deacon Tyrone, but Tyrone Hinton. I worked with him, and we were coming there with the donuts, and we had the donuts at first. And we had a blast in doing that, and it was just kind of fell in love with the ministry, and it was amazing that here, 4 years later, I'm actually now working with Youth for Christ, and what a great bunch of people. Miss Peggy is just a wonderful person in the ministry. She just loves God, and I think that's why I love her, because of her love for God and her love for youth. So whatever she was saying today about her love for the youth, it's so true. It comes out of her pores. And same thing with you, Tyrone. I really appreciate you and just your desire to disciple people. And everybody has this, and Richard, same thing with Richard. Richard, Restoration Chapel. I mean, if you get about 4 minutes, real quick, Richard, how did you come up with that? What made you come up with that?
Actually, I can in no way take credit for it. I was born into it. It was actually a concept that our church came up with. It was at the time, one of the members who since moved out of town some years ago, who was himself an incarcerated youth, but was able to rise to where he was a successful business owner and wanted to give back. Justin, that can definitely be your story. I think you have that in you. And so he started it. And so our church got behind him. He had the vision for it. And then when I came on staff some 9 years ago, I came into it and just happened to steward it. And so it wasn't my idea at all. As a matter of fact, the way it's evolved, it's now pretty much what JJM and YFC have really taken the ball and run with it. And that's why you've got stories like you're seeing with Justin. So, it's taken on a new shape, a new flavor, and I'm just excited to see what it can be in the future, provided and do the work.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we're all excited. I mean, with COVID-19 hitting, it's amazing when I think about Youth for Christ. Even though the facilities will not let us in, Youth for Christ is continue to be relentless in staying open. We're staying open, and we're looking for ways because of youth that we come in contact with, like Justin. I think just being able to spread the gospel and talk to these youth and see them latch on to Bible studies and just transform themselves, right? Strip off the old personality and put on this new personality. That makes it all worth it. And I just want to say thank you for all that you guys do. It really does mean a lot. And having you on here, Miss Peggy, to talk about this. We're going to have you back on. We're going to have you come back on with us to talk more about it. I think, and Justin, we definitely want to have you and Tyrone. So please feel free to come back on. You guys are more than welcome to come on anytime. We're getting ready to talk about juvenile justice. We're going to include you guys. Last final words, Mr. Tim White. You got 60 seconds, and I'll give the other final word to Tim. Go ahead and give me your final thoughts.
My 60 seconds is very simple. I'm looking at everybody's faces, and I think it's a marvelous and glorious thing to be able to look in everybody's eyes and see these are people who want to be here. These are people who have something to share. And when we have something to share, it's because you care. And let's continually do that. Care and share. That's the whole ministry in a nutshell. Amen. So we appreciate you guys being here. It wasn't about us. It was about you guys. Peggy was about you. Tyrone was about you. Justin, it was about you. We appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Richard White.
Yeah. Hey, Justin. And you see my background, Shoot for the Stars.
Yeah.
As you can see my background, and if nothing else, you'll float to the sun, and then you'll see those pearly gates.
There you go.
Just continue to be out of this world, huh?
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of what my dad said, right? Similar situation. He said, shoot for the stars. If you land on the moon, either way, you landed up high. So, we want to say thank you. Our time is running out, but please, thank you for joining. If you're in your living room, please tune in next time. Every 2 weeks, we're on Facebook Live, and this will be rebroadcasted on YouTube and Apple TV. So thank you, Miss Peggy.
And it goes around the
Thanks,
nation.
Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye, Justin. Bye, guys.
See ya.
All
All
right,
right.
take care.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
All right.
what's that, Richard? Was that your 2 and 2?
Yeah.
All right, man. Exciting. We got these last few seconds. We just stare at each other.